call this meeting in order. Okay, we'll start with roll call, please.
Chair Pulitz,
Present.
Vice Chair Norville,
Here.
Treasurer Sutton, Member Flint, Member Horton, Member Hutter, and Member Stewart. We have a quorum.
Okay, then we'll start off then with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Hutter, how about you tonight? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As always, the minutes were sent out to all the board members ahead of the meeting, and I'm assuming that everyone had a chance to review the minutes, and I'd like to ask for someone to make a motion to approve those minutes. Okay. Mr.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes have been approved. The chairman reserves the right to modify the agenda in order to most effectively process the agenda items. Items may be taken out of order. Items may be combined for consideration by the authority. Items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Members of the public who wish to address the airport authority may speak on agendized and non-agendized matters related to the airport. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person or topic. If your item requires extended discussion, please request the chairman to calendar the matter for future airport authority meetings. The public may provide public comment in advance for a meeting by written submission to the following email address, manager@flycarsoncity.com, for inclusion or reference in the minutes of the meeting. Your public comments must include your full name and address and be submitted via email by no later than 5 p.m. the day before the meeting. The Carson City Airport Authority values your input. Members of the public who wish to provide live public comment may do so during the designated public comment periods indicated on the agenda in person. With that, I'd like to go ahead and ask the airport engineer's report.
All right, so Brian Martinez-Moles, Wood Rogers, for the record. So I've got a couple projects to update. One, the first one on the list, the RSA Drainage Improvements Project. That project has an agenda item for tonight, so I'll leave the discussion for that. The main apron rehab project and our 2025 pavement preservation. So that work was recently completed. I'm sure you guys were aware of that. We did work on the week of the 27th and August 3rd. That work has all been completed. We do have a little bit of work left to do once the pavement is cured. We have a little bit of striping to do. We'll probably do that after Labor Day period timeline. But otherwise, that work is for the most part complete, and there's temporary markings as well. The last little bit that I have here is upcoming projects. So there is a Taxiway Bravo reconstruction project and North Apron pavement preservation. So the FAA has awarded grants for those, so we'll be getting going on those here soon. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian? None? Very good. Thanks, Brian. Okay, we'll move on. Tonight, we do not have any consent agenda items to discuss.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we going to go back to the open public comment period now?
Yeah, we could do that. Is there someone in the public that'd like to make a comment before we get into the agendized items? Please come up.
Okay, Loretta Hamilton, and I'm here to talk about the tailgating through the gates. And I think we discussed that a while back. And I was reading through the draft of the rules, new rules, and I would like to comment on the progressive discipline. I wasn't quite sure what the precedent was for this. So that might be explained. And then also the suspension timeframe, it was not called out or specified. And same with the revocation of driving privileges. So wondered about that. It seems written warning is a little generous. I'd like to, since I've been a participant in some of these problems with the tailgating, I'd like to see it, some teeth in it, so that we can just cut to the chase and minimize the episodes. I think that will save a lot of time and energy for all involved. So, and I suggest maybe a 6-month suspension, first time, second time, 12 months. I'm kind of done with all of that. So, thank you.
Thanks, Loretta. Are there any response? Oh, yes, go ahead. Paul Hamilton.
Paul Hamilton, Sport Aviation Center. So I've actually got 2 items here. First one is regarding the H4 item here, and that is kind of going off what Loretta says. We've got this progressive penalties, and again, it appears that I'm not sure where that came from. Part of the problem is when people are coming through the gate or whatever, there's really no penalties. There hasn't been, and this is part of the problem. So again, and I know in the H4 item here, we do talk about whether we should charge people a fee. And I think that we should charge them a fee, because just getting a letter in the file is, fine. The letter in the file usually just goes in the trash can, which most of us know. So if they have to write a check, even for some minimal amount, or a check that helps support, I saw something in here where we're talking about using some of the fines to help us fund our airport endeavors would be helpful. So I'm highly in favor of increasing these penalties so that we can get something done here. Okay? That's item number 1. Now, item number 2, I'm going to pass this out here before I start talking. We know what we're talking about here. Hopefully I get enough. A little update. Uh-oh. I need one of these. You guys are going to share. Okay. Item number 2 is that the last time I was here, we talked about Mr. Hamilton expressed serious concerns regarding recurring hostile encounters at the broader airport security vulnerabilities, cautioning that unauthorized individual could easily follow key holders through access gate, and urging the authority to address this issue. Now, it turns out that when we look at our item here and if we go to page 2, the very top is our old security provisions. Now, I will have to congratulate you guys on putting together a whole new procedures. However,
Hey, Paul, You've
It-
exceeded your time. Could we defer this until we get to that agenda item? Then you can come up again and speak to this again when we have the agenda item up, because you've exceeded the 3 minutes for the general comment.
Okay,
So
well,
you'll
I was
have more
actually
time. You'll have more
doing a
time.
new,
But you'll have
new
more
item.
time again. You'll have more time when we bring this safety and security up on 4 again.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So you want me to wait
Yeah, you only get 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
I know, but I went from one item to, I just started a new one.
Can you have it 3 minutes for each item? See,
There'll be a chance to speak again in a little bit of time.
we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back.
Okay.
We have your backup
So
here
when
too.
will I be able to speak again?
Tonight, when we go to item 4, talking about airport security.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. We're going to move on to public hearings. And agenda item number H1. For discussion and possible action, award and authorize execution of the FAA contract for AIP Grant 51, runway safety area drainage and improvements. We will be asking for a staff summary.
Okay, so first of all, it was just brought to my attention that this grant was awarded a different number. It was actually awarded at 49. So this is not grant 51, this is grant 49. So take note of that. This item has been a little more difficult than grants have been in the past. I'm going to kind of just read through the executive summary here because it's a little complicated. So this project, whenever we went out to bid the first time, we got bids back that were not high enough, or they were over the amount that was in the ASIP. So there was not enough money available to fund the grant fully whenever we got those first bids back. We went back out to bid with an additional option to have crushed rock instead of paved shoulders. And we were doing that with the intention to have something that we can do with this grant and be able to move forward with, but we were not happy with that solution. It was just kind of the best we could do with the information we had. But in the midst of all of this, the FAA informed us that they were going to have to take some money from this project and give it to another airport who had to do change orders and was over budget. So with that, we were able to negotiate with the FAA and come up with a plan to split this into 2 different grants. One awarded this fiscal year, this federal fiscal year, and then one awarded next federal fiscal year. This actually made it possible to award the full base bid, which is bringing us back to being able to do the paved shoulders for this project. This has been an interesting topic of discussion with Steve and I, and I'm sure Steve will have some comments to add once I get through this briefing about how this will all work. This project overall has a long history. It was one of the first things that I did when I started as airport manager here was actually stop a project that was to acquire equipment and resources to remove the vegetation along the edge of the runway. That was primarily because there's a pretty significant safety issue for airport staff mowing in between the lights in that close proximity to the runway. Eliminating the vegetation would create a dust and erosion problem. So right away, I started working on solutions that could address the safety issue. Is a very important safety issue that needs to be addressed, as well as the erosion. And we did some more research, and we found that our safety area itself was not in compliant with the FAA's compliance manual, and that was actually due to erosion. So we set down the path of creating a project for drainage improvements and to address the erosion along the pavement edge, which would both fix the erosion and address the safety issue. And coordinating with the FAA, we were able to come up with this plan for paved shoulders. So we've found a path forward to achieve that and get ourselves paved shoulders. And I think that Steve should make a few comments about the impacts of this being separated into 2 grants and some of the steps that we've taken to address the potential liabilities along with that.
Hey, Corey, can I clarify just one thing real quick?
Yes.
On the rebid, I want to note that when we rebid it the second time, we included an award option for either the paved shoulder or the rock. So by awarding this now, we're still fully compliant with low bid procurements and NRS and all that fun stuff. And then the other thing that changed was the calendar year. So we were trying to get this done this fall, but the timing's probably not great. And so then we changed it to a spring start construction in collaboration with the FAA. So sorry, just want to clarify that.
Okay, so a couple of things. I just want to jump in. First of all, just so everybody understands the process, the FAA allocates a certain amount of money to each state every year. And they break it into 2 different parts. One part for the large commercial airports, you know, the Reno and the Las Vegas airports, and one portion for all the general aviation airports. And then they go through and look at all these requests for grants from each of the airports, and they figure out which ones are highest priority and which ones they can fund. It is not that unusual that they give a grant and then say, or you ask for a certain amount, and they say, yeah, tentatively you can get it. And then when you get to the actual grant, they say, oops, we really had to allocate it to something else. We've been on the positive receiving side of that in the past, so we really can't complain that when it happens to us and when we're not on the positive side. But thank you to Corey and Brian for getting the airport district office manager to commit that we will fund the rest of it next year. We'll cover you. Now, we just have that as a promise. And so then the question becomes, oh, well, what happens if something happens between now and then? They just don't get the money. They change the personnel and they don't remember this, you know, something like that. And so the solution that the 3 of us are endorsing and recommending to you is that we go ahead with the grant, accept the grant offer for the lower amount with the promise we're going to get more later, but we break it down so there are 2 different notices to proceed. One that covers an amount that we're sure that we have enough money to pay for, and the second one for the rest of the contract. And given that the federal government's fiscal year begins September, October, I can't remember. It begins in, yeah, it's either September or October. We think we're going to get the second approval, or we'll be able to apply for it and get the heads up that we're getting it well before we need that money. So it should work out fine. I just reviewed the grant offer because coincidentally we got the offer today. And I was looking through it to make sure there isn't anything in the offer that would screw that up for us. And I'm not seeing any problems. I mean, it's pretty much a standard document, so it doesn't have additional language, which I would love to see saying, oh, by the way, we promise to give you the money, the rest of the money next year, but I wouldn't expect to see that in a standard document like this. The one other thing I just wanted to mention to you too is the change in the number for the grant number is not a big deal. I don't think it invalidates any action you take or anything else. We've all been treating it as grant number 51 until we just got this offer where I think they looked and said, oh, hey, there was a 49 that we had skipped before. Let's go ahead and put 49 on this one. I think they're just trying to make sure there's no skipped numbers. And so when the grant came today, it's identified as 49. But I don't think that doesn't change the notice of this item because it is the same project. It is the runway safety area drainage and improvement project, and there is only one, so we're okay there. But I can also answer any other questions you have. And I also don't deserve the credit for the brilliant idea to have 2 notices to proceed. It was one of the other 2 bright guys who were on the phone call, and I don't remember which one.
Thank you, Brian. Any more staff summary? Questions from the board?
No, we will, oh, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, we recommend that you approve it.
Right. Any questions to on this?
One quick one. I just, in reviewing the the bid, I did notice the add option that was not elected, but for actual replacement of the runway lights as opposed to R&R of the existing units. And I was just curious as to what the bell and whistle, if you will, of the new light option would be and how they were different.
I don't really know the specs of the difference. That, Brian, you'd probably have a
Yeah,
better
so
answer.
Yeah, so the bid, the option you were talking about was, so right now the base bid includes paved shoulders. We need to replace the edge lighting can and some of the cabling with that. And the alternate was really just, do we remove and replace the existing fixture or purchase a new fixture? So some of this is opinion or kind of my perspective, but so I'm not quoting the FAA, but the we're already over budget, and so we're asking for more money. And so there was that. And then we also talked about in the future, the project, the runway is subject to a reconstruction in the near horizon, just for pavement preservation purposes. We also have the runway extension that we're all pursuing. And so there was just this common understanding of the FAA only is going to pay for something once. And so in the future, that could change some of those things. And so we all kind of agreed, let's just do this now and we'll get the new lights later once we have a better understanding of how those two projects could impact it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with the choice. I mean, we're already on LED lights, so are they like rainbow LED lights, right? So
There wouldn't be a drastic improvement other than having new. Yeah.
Thanks.
Improvement is the lights that we have are discontinued. So it's really hard to get replacements. We can still get them right now, but that won't last forever. And so we'll want the lights to be replaced, but there are other projects where we'll have opportunities to do that.
Any other questions regarding this from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to get something in the minutes about this. I understand it's probably impossible, having discussed it with Corey, regarding the paved shoulders. Those are going to be 12 or 13 feet, is that right?
I don't believe that. I think they're 10 feet, but I can't recall off the top of my head.
12 and a half feet on each side would put us at 100 feet. The reason I mention that is, I don't know if there's any chance in the discussion that this could be something real, but to install the paved shoulders and relocate the runway lights to the edge of the paved shoulder and then mark the paved shoulder with paint. And the reason I bring that up is because I think it's a safety issue, particularly with the wind here predominantly out of the southwest. For super mid-size aircraft landing here, if those runway lights were displaced a little bit and the paved shoulder was marked with paint, it would be a major step forward safety-wise. I understand we can't call it widening the runway, but if the paved shoulders are done to the same spec as the runway, I'm given to understand that would be the case.
No.
It's not the case.
I totally understand where you're going with it. Because it's grant funded, the paved shoulders follow the FAA's criteria for a paved shoulder. So the paved shoulders, the structural section thickness is based off of a single departure per year for the most critical design aircraft. And then, but then essentially for our airport, it basically just puts us to minimum thicknesses, because if you were at a commercial airport, the critical aircraft is quite a bit heavier. So we have our minimum section for the shoulder, and then the width and the light placement is basically at the FAA's prescribed. So if we were to deviate from that, I think it could cause either a grant eligibility question or the airport would have to pay for excess out of their own funds. And not to diminish what you're saying, I'm just kind of it's the game
Well,
of that.
I understand, and I just put it out there because it would be a tremendous improvement for the airport. But I understand that there are problems with it, and it probably won't happen, but.
Yeah, and then the only thing for contrast that is included in the project is the addition of edge markings on the runway because of the contrast. We won't have that contrast of, what's runway versus what's shoulder. And so with the paved shoulder, there will be now edge markings on the runway.
Except for the lights.
I'm sorry, I don't.
I mean, the paved shoulder is going to be outside of the lights, right?
The lights will be within the paved shoulder. It'll be at the edge of the paved shoulder.
The lights will be at the edge of the paved shoulder.
Correct. That's why we have to replace the cans because we'll actually be adjusting the elevation for the lights. The edge lights will be basically on the outer bounds of the paved shoulder, but within the pavement asphalt shoulder itself.
But you see where I'm going with it, Corey. But
Yeah.
anyway, no point in belaboring it.
No,
Unfortunately, the
Like that.
airport design is very specific, and we can't really deviate from the FAA's airport design without changing the airport's design category, which is a whole different thing.
I just want the minutes to reflect that I brought it up.
thank you, Harlow. Anybody else on the board want to speak about it, or anybody from the public have any comments on this? If not, I am going to call on a member to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Brett, come on up to the microphone, please, so we can get it on record. State your name. Turn on the microphone.
My name's Britt Johnson, and I am a hangar owner here at Carson Airport and been associated with the airport since 2012. The reason I'm asking the question, I didn't understand the classification for the thickness of the shoulders based on departing and/or arriving aircraft.
Yes, you take the way that the advisory circular prescribes the pavement design is you use the most critical aircraft. And so that can be determined in two ways. It can be off of pure weight, but when you get to larger aircraft, it can be based off the wheel load. So some very large aircraft have additional gears which help distribute the load out. So it's really what is the most demanding on the pavement itself. And then it assumes, or you have to design for a single departure per year for 20 years. And so that's how you come up with the pavement thickness. The FAA has their own, it's commonly accepted by others, but they have their own design pavement philosophy and their own program called FAR-Field. It's an acronym kind of term, but you use their program with their parameters and it determines the pavement thickness.
so right now we're 60,000 pounds dual wheel main landing gear, right?
Correct. So you take that aircraft, you would run it through their program with, geotech. There's inputs to that as far as from geotechnical field testing and things like that. And then you determine the pavement thickness.
I think there's another important part of that is ours is going to exceed that because to meet the minimums, it's actually built to higher than what that program spits out.
And the idea of the shoulder is to provide a stable surface, but it's not, unlike how we would design a roadway or a taxiway or a runway where we want it to be serviceable for all the times. We want the shoulders need to be safe for that departure, but not, it's just a different performance level.
Well, I understand.
Yes, exactly.
My background is engineering as well, so I understand that. I didn't understand the classification. And thank you, Harlow, for pointing that out at 60,000 pounds dual wheel. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Brett.
I
Good
would
question.
add that doesn't mean that aircraft weighing more than that cannot use the runway.
Sure.
But that's more of a determinant on the life of the runway. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of gray area in there, but yes, no, it doesn't mean that, the airport is a B2 airport. It doesn't mean that other aircraft can't come here as well.
We have aircraft that come in here that are over 60,000 pounds, have
Correct.
wingspans over 79 feet
Correct.
all the time.
And so that's why we have PCN, ACNs to help back up what the runways can accommodate. But then what your critical aircraft is becomes an ALP and your traffic. And so changing your classification requires a certain percentage of it's like there's different ways of getting there, and it all is prescribed by the FAA, but there's the planning, and then there's what your ALP says your critical aircraft is, and then there's what your runway can physically accommodate, and you can exceed your ALP to aircraft, which the airport does all the time.
Okay, so you were saying it would be at least as strong as the runway, or did I misunderstand?
No, that's a misunderstanding. It's designed to support the same type of aircraft, but under different conditions.
Based on limited use, like one time a year, not constant. That's a different calculation. Well, we have a lot of good knowledgeable people here. Thanks, Brett, for your comments, and Harlow. I think Carl understands a lot of this too. Any other comments from the public? Any more from the board? If not, then I will ask a board member to go ahead and make a motion.
I move to award the base bid contract for the runway safety area drainage and improvements project to PaveTech in the amount of $2,491,680 and pending the grant award of $1,787.92 for the RSA drainage improvements project, and acknowledge that the remaining project costs will be funded by a second AIP grant in fiscal year 2027.
Very good. Unless there's any other comments,
Excuse
I'd like
me.
to ask someone. Yes.
Excuse me, Chairman, could the maker of the motion add that this is also conditioned on our plan, you're approving our plan to do 2 notices to proceed so that we can do this?
Yes, that is exactly it. This will be planned according to 2 notices to proceed.
Very good. Okay. Unless there's any more comments, I'm going to ask for someone to go ahead and second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item H2. For discussion and possible action, approve FBO permit of Nunez Extreme Mobile Detailing LLC as a Class 5 FBO providing aircraft cleaning services. Staff summary first, please.
Okay, I'll try to make this one quick. Nunez Extreme Mobile Detailing LLC has applied for a Class 5 FBO permit to provide aircraft cleaning services. They have met all of the requirements for the Class 5 FBO permit, and this is very similar to the item that was approved for Real Clean aircraft just a couple months ago, and I recommend approval.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, we do the board first, right, and then public, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a wonderful thing, and I'm really glad to see it. Somebody who, right out of the gate, wants to do it the right way. By visiting with the airport manager, accomplishing all the necessary steps, and then bringing that before the board is exactly what we would hope that everybody on the airport would do. Doesn't always happen that way, but so I'd like to congratulate Mr. Nunez, is it? For going through all of these steps. For me, I would be extremely happy to have you on the airport. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Maybe this is stating the obvious, but the requirement for a Class 5 FBO permit allows Nunez to provide services on airport-owned property and therefore leased hangars on leased land. That's the key piece that enables, right?
Correct, and he'll be able to do things like get his own access card and that sort of thing. so that he can access the airport and go do this business. And like Harlow was saying, not everybody goes through this process, and so we're really appreciative of them doing all this.
Yeah, agreed.
With Class 5 status, there's no question about whether he's your employee or who's he working for.
Yep.
It's made clear by Title 19. So anywhere on the airport to any of our tenants, which is wonderful.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. No one else from the public? All right. I'll call on a member to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Class 5 FBO permit application for Nunez Extreme Mobile Detailing LLC.
Very good. And unless someone has another
I'll
comment,
second
we're going to
that.
go ahead and ask for a second.
Sure, I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations, Mr. Nunez. Where are you? Are you out there somewhere?
He wasn't able to make it today.
Okay. Well, congratulations anyway.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item H3. For discussion and possible action, approve Cactus Air Force LLC lease assignment to AADF Legacy Airbase, Inc. Staff summary, please.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to recognize Cactus Air Force Wings and Wheels Museum and what they've done for this airport over the years. Having Rick and Veronica out here has been a true asset to Carson City. Their collection of aircraft has been able to be enjoyed by the community annually at our annual events and also throughout the year for many years now. And we've been very lucky to have them at our airport. And I just want to send out a thank you to Cactus Air Force for everything y'all have done. Hopefully we still see y'all around. I know y'all are going to still be around Nevada, so hopefully we still see y'all around the airport. And with that, I'll continue on with the summary here. And this is pretty straightforward. So this is a purchase of the Cactus Air Force Wings and Wheels Museum hangar by Legacy Air Base. Legacy Air Base is also a very interesting nonprofit, which I think is going to be a huge asset for Carson City as well. They are partners with another company, and it's important to distinguish that it's two different organizations known as Dream Flights, who provide flights for veterans. So this is going to be another really good nonprofit to have at the airport. It'll continue the legacy of the Warbird historical aircraft out at the airport to have them here. They'll be a really good asset to the airport overall. Again, they've provided all of the required support materials, including a draft agreement. I think it's important to note out here this agreement is not actually executed. That is because this execution of this agreement is contingent on this approval. So we will be executing this document after the meeting. But both parties are in agreement with the terms depending on the results of this meeting. They provided all the necessary documents, including insurance, with the demonstrating that they're going to be able to get the insurance and list the airport as additionally insured. They've also included a plan for accessing the hangar. So one of the planned activities for Dream Flights, which is going to be the sublease of Legacy Air Base, is to have people go to and from the hangar. And obviously there's a concern there with that hangar not having direct access to the land side. So they've included a adequate explanation of how they intend on getting people to and from their operation. I believe it's going to be safe and it's going to be beneficial to the airport. And I recommend approval. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Corey. Any discussion from the board?
Is Mr. Fisher here tonight? Okay.
Fisher.
Well, it's good to have you here. This is exciting, I think, for all of us, and I, for one, welcome it.
Any comments from the public? No? Any more comments from the board? If not, I'd like to ask someone to make a motion.
I move to approve the lease assignment from Cactus Air Force LLC to AADF Legacy Air Base Incorporated.
Thank you. And unless there's any more discussion, I'm going to ask for a second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been seconded. All those in favor, please
Aye.
by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Okay. Motion passes.
I'd like to say thank you to Rick and Veronica as well.
Welcome to
Been
Carson
a
City.
staple on the airport for many years and been very good for the airport community. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item H4, our last item of the evening. For discussion, following airport staff internal review of the airport driving rules and regulations, airport staff will present 2 drafts of updated airport driving and access control rules and regulations for comments from the airport authority. Now, we'd like to have a staff summary on this, and I know there's going to be some extra comments, so hopefully we can accommodate everything and get this done in a professional manner and positively. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so this draft is actually the result of over a year of work. This is not to address any one particular issue with the airport driving rules and regulations, but to address multiple different things that needed to be addressed. One of the things is that this expands these rules and regulations to more than just vehicles. The original document was only written targeting vehicles only. This expands that to be about all airport access of any form. This also implements the already existing access control regulations for the gate cards. Those were approved back in 2022, but there was no policy that they were added to. It was just the specific items that were approved. That is integrated into this. This also separates rules and regulations from movement area and non-movement area, making it more clear who is authorized to be in the movement area, which at our airport is the runway and taxiway Alpha and Delta, versus the rest of the airport. It separates that out, making it more clear. Only people with authorization from the airport manager and meet the additional requirements are able to operate in that area. That was already the rules. This just makes it a little bit more clear. And then this also adds some educational components. This provides some information on roles and responsibilities. If you notice, that is not actually policy. That is essentially guidance. There's always lots of questions about what do I do in such and such scenario. And this was designed to address those questions and to help it be more clear to the airport users what they should and should not be doing in different situations. In addition to all of that, there's some clarity in some of these regulations throughout it. Very little actually changed in the rules and regulations other than some clarifications. This also gives some authority to the airport manager's designee in addition to the airport manager. Previously, the way the rules are written, there was no way for the airport manager to assign authority to other individuals. In this case, my designee would be the supervisor of airport operations and maintenance at the airport, making it clear that that position also has the authority to enforce those regulations. This document is quite a bit longer than the previous regulations, but that's only because of how the formatting is and how everything is laid out and the inclusion of these additional areas. Also, I cross-referenced the advisory circulars, as well as Carson City Municipal Code and Title 19, as well as Nevada revised statutes, and made sure they're referenced in throughout this document. And I'm sure there are lots of questions about this, so I think I'll move from the presentation of it to take questions at this time.
Okay, before we start, thank you, Corey. as you all know, this is not to be voted on tonight. This is strictly to start the discussion, which is very good. And our friend Paul Hamilton, who is probably the number one user of our airport day to day, is here with very strong concerns, primarily because he's there witnessing a lot of the concerns. And as you all know, we got this recommendation here. I do believe it's something we should all read and pay attention to, and sit down with Corey after this meeting and discuss if some of this can be added to or discussed in his final drafts. And I hope that Paul, you have a chance to read both of those summaries that he did. Have you had a chance to read those, both of them? Yeah, good. You have them, good, right? So this is good. This is good food for thought. We all want a safe airport, so I want to open up discussion first with the board members, then we'll go back to the audience. Go ahead.
I just have one, I guess it's a housekeeping question for council. If we establish a policy and then, and the judgment of whoever witnesses an infraction, an individual is fined or assessed a fee, let's say of $150, is there some kind of due process issue there where the person can say, well, I didn't do what you said I did? Is there an arbiter? I mean, how do we?
Yeah, we looked at it. It's, we refer to it as a penalty or a charge for doing it. We're hoping it's a disincentive to continued violations of the rules. But truly what we're doing is we're collecting a charge to recover the costs of having a process to make sure things work. So,
With the law?
yeah, and so I think it's okay. The other thing is, use of the airport is not a right, it's a privilege. And so the laws are very different on what due process is owed when you have a privilege, something like a driver's license or something like that, versus something that you have a right to, like a constitutional right to vote or freedom of speech or something like that. So it's not that same standard of due process that might occur if somebody were being charged with a criminal offense that had the potential of putting them into jail or something like that.
I'd like to elaborate a little bit on this topic. Just that I wanted to point out that there's two drafts here being presented. The second draft is just the final 2 pages that are different, and one draft shows penalties without fees, and the other one shows penalties with fees. And so that's going to be an important point of discussion.
Any other comments? Board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the old saying, I believe, is if you want more of something, make it cheap. I think if we want the behavior to stop, we got to be willing to put some penalties in place. I also think that we can use the proceeds from those penalties to increase security at the gate, which will help enforcement, which I believe is the main concern, is if we have penalties, how are we going to enforce it? Well, let's first get the penalties in place, and then let's start ratcheting it down and stop the behavior. Right now, I believe there's a general feeling that there's just nothing's going to happen. Maybe some people get ornery and talk to you once. I don't believe that is a suitable dissuasion to the behavior, the habits of the users of the airport. As one of the people who will probably be paying these penalties on other people's behalfs, it might sound a little strange that I'm advocating for that, but I believe it's in the best interest of the airport to go ahead and do fines for violating these as a means of dissuading the behavior. I think it's necessary.
So if somebody says, I won't pay it,
There is another hammer here, which is you revoke their access to the airport, which we have the right to do. So there's a way to enforce that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do have one other kind of limited exception, which is somebody that isn't driving onto the airport, they're sneaking onto the airport. And so it isn't like we can revoke or suspend a gate card. And unfortunately, I've been in the courthouse a couple of times so far with the one person who's been a serial person sneaking onto the airport. And there we're actually using the criminal process with him, trespass and theft of services and damage to things. And that guy is currently sitting in jail. I should just say, I don't believe he's a hardened criminal. I think he is mentally challenged, but he thinks it's really cool to pretend he's a pilot and sneak onto the airport. And we're worried that he could cause some real damage. This is the same guy that broke into our old NDOT snowplow and drove it around on the airport, which is scary because we know that a collision between a motor vehicle and an airplane does more damage to the airplane because the airplanes are designed to have thin, light bodies. But with a snowplow like that, that could be devastating on an aircraft or a loss of life. So we're taking a pretty strong approach to someone like that. But we've also included people who get onto the airport without a right to be there in these rules, which previously they didn't have. Previously, it was just about driving cars on the airport. But we saw a gap there, so that's included in here as well.
Thanks, Steve. I have a comment. The good news is that on this board, most of us are users, and most of us value safety on the airport. And as a matter of fact, with Brian with High Sierra Pilots and with Paul in the audience, by far represent the two biggest users of our airport, without a doubt. And you guys are the ones that are experiencing some of the concerns that we're trying to address. And what Paul sent to us to review, I'm hoping that perhaps, Corey, with the small committee, you can take some more looks at possibly on the financial side of this and some of the other parts, and hear their concerns as well. You've done some of that already, and then come back to us with something that we feel is, legitimately what is needed based on the people that are using the airport daily. Because if you're just using it occasionally, you don't see the problems. I use it more than most, but still, compared to these guys, not even in the same universe, and I don't see the problems occurring. So I'm not the best person to be analyzing. I do have access to the gate cameras, and I have access to the egress and access. But if we could possibly take this as serious as possible and work together, come back with something that we feel that the board can comfortably approve, I'm all for it. Any other comments on my comments?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Corey, all of what's being proposed and considered right now is at the discretion of the airport manager, am I correct? So if someone was assessed a fee, you would have the discretion to waive that fee after talking to them. Is that not true?
The way this is written, that would be the case. There's a lot of discretion given to the airport manager in both drafts.
Excellent. So that could be a way to resolve issues if somebody contested the fee and you did not have sufficient evidence to really push it. You would have the discretion to make that call. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent.
I would like to make a few comments about kind of the devil's advocate to the opposite position of charging fees, if that's all right, Tim. So typically, I'm opposed to adding additional fees at the airport. So anytime we talk about fees, my default position is opposing the fees. I totally understand and see the value in this, and that's why we're looking at both of these drafts. And whatever the airport authority, whatever the board decides, is what we're going to ultimately go with. But I would like to point out that without the fees being charged, there's significant risk to the people who violate the rules, even without the fee. Someone to lose access to the airport for any amount of days, or up to 30 days, or even permanently lose their access, would be a substantial penalty to someone who owns and operates an airplane out at the airport. I think the biggest problem we've experienced, I should first highlight how much progress we've made. So the airport has significantly improved with airport access compliance since I've been here, mostly stemming from public outreach and also strongly coming from the implementation of the gate access control rules that we adopted in 2022. Assigning cards to one individual rather than having one person with 10, 20 cards who they can hand out freely has made it possible for us to explain these rules and regulations to the individuals that are getting the access cards. One of the things that we do today is we read a briefing to every person who gets a new card or renews a card. So everyone is getting the message that they need to be following these rules. And also important and very important component of that is that they're being notified to tell staff whenever they witness something like this happen. The biggest problem that I see with these rules is that not that the airport doesn't enforce them or that the penalties are not great enough as they are today. It's that the airport staff doesn't get notified when it happens. And through this public outreach, I believe we're going in the right direction and we're getting these reports. We're getting far more reports than we used to get. So the letter going out may not seem like a very big deal right now, and that's primarily because it wasn't going out at all. So if they never got the notice that they're going to lose their access to this airport to begin with, then there's no way for that to improve. But I believe that through these public outreach measures that we've already taken, that's going to improve. And I believe that the more severe penalty is not necessarily a component if it's not being, the notice isn't being sent out at all. So I just think that's something to think about and should be a part of this discussion. But ultimately, the decision to charge the fee is up to the board here. And I would appreciate as much input on that today as possible. So if anyone is thinking I'm definitely for it or definitely against the fee, I would appreciate that feedback. And
Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment on that. I personally view for my fellow board members' consideration the fee as not going nuclear on the user and the revocation of their access as the final thing. So I see a fee as an intermediate step. I kind of see it as we give them a written warning, we talk to them, then we take their access away. That seems like you're going nuclear and you're going to run, I'm afraid we are going to run into problems with access to property and create potentially a hazard for conflict with individuals. I think a fee is a common sort of penalty in our system, and I think it should be an available lever to our airport manager to be able to pull or not as an intermediate step between taking access away. I don't see it as the final bigger punishment. I see it as a way to diffuse this across several levels. And I'd just like y'all to consider that.
You.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a proposal with respect to the committee to work on this.
Agreed.
That for next meeting, this should be agendized. I think we can ask Steve, but it should be agendized in order to appoint the committee. That's an action. We can't appoint the committee tonight based on this, can we?
No, you can't
Yeah.
appoint it based on this
So
because.
next month, we
because-
agendize this for appointment of a committee. And then I would recommend Chairman Pulis, Member Sutton, and Member Stewart. And then the committee meetings would then be publicly noticed and open to the public at the terminal. And with only 3, then there would be no action taken because there's no quorum. And then the conclusions of the committee would then be brought back to the board and reported to the board at a meeting where we were noticed to take action. We've used that method in the past and it's worked pretty good. That way the public does not feel excluded from the process.
Yeah, and I think what you described comports with the Nevada open meeting law, but I'll just verify that.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we've
We've been down that road before, I know.
been close to the edge before.
We want to make sure we're on the right side.
All right, I fully agree with Harlow. I think that we can put something together before the next meeting. And the nice part that I like is it's open to the public so that people can sit down and we won't be limited to 3 minutes. And we have a chance to hear people interact with our proposals, hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hopefully come to terms with the most efficient way to keep this airport safe. So
Mr. Chairman, just a comment.
Yeah.
I would urge you to take the fine seriously. I had some past experience with issues similar to this, and nobody pays attention until you hit them in the wallet. It's just the way it works, and it's another option. It brings to the, to the whole program a subtleness of, hey, we'll give you a written warning. There's an opportunity for you to improve your behavior, and there's also an incentive for you to improve your behavior.
Well taken.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I do want to make sure that we recognize Paul and make sure that his opportunity to speak again will occur at that committee meeting.
Oh, yeah, it's open. He'll have his chance to,
To be open to the public.
yeah. And it won't be under the same rules we have here, so it's a different type of where it's more of a conversational, not a
Yeah.
board meeting. Does that work for you, Paul? Thank you, Loretta. Anybody else? That was a great discussion. I think we're going to make big progress on that. And unless anybody has anything else to discuss, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Oh, oh, we have something? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, doggone it. We went right through all that. Oh, that's right. We have treasurers. We have the manager's reports. We have legal counsel reports. I get home-itis. Okay, let's go ahead and start off with the manager's report.
Okay, it's been busy. The SRE building, we've achieved substantial completion and we've received the occupancy authorization for the building. Final closeout documents are still being prepared, but that grant will be ready for closing soon. Rick and Morgan have moved into their offices in there, and they are hard at work preparing that building for their full-time use. A letter was sent out to Raquel Gervine, the FAA Western Pacific Regional Manager. This letter was detailing everything the airport has accomplished towards the nighttime approval of the instrument approach, and also some of the challenges that we've experienced. It was a request for the nighttime assessment to be expedited, especially because we're going to have to be closing that grant soon, and the FAA has not completed their assessment for the nighttime approval. I know that the Western Pacific region received it because our office in Phoenix commented that they saw the letter. So it's been received by the FAA. I don't know if that'll be effective or helpful, but it's been done. So Kim and I and Steve have been working on hangar use compliance. This is something we've been working on for many years now. But formal letters went out to ground lease holders for the ground leases that we found to not be fully in compliance. This was just a notice at this point, and we've had a lot of positive response with positive movement in the right direction to achieve compliance with these hangars. Some of them have achieved full compliance. Others have had a discussion with us, and we've granted them a 180-day extension for various different reasons. Some might be looking for tenants. Others may be working on construction projects. For example, if there's a hangar with a experimental aircraft under construction, that's an approved use for the hangar. However, it's approved for the construction of that aircraft, not for the storage of a kit. So the 180 days are going to be continual 180-day updates for those types of situations. So we're going to ask that they demonstrate forward progress on these types of projects. Just storing an aircraft kit is not going to be an adequate use of the hangar. Others remain to be non-compliant. This is going to be an ongoing thing that we will continue to work on from now until the end of time. There's not really an end date to this, but this will be an ongoing project for us to be better and better shape to achieve that compliance. This is important. The FAA requires that the airport be primarily used for aviation. We have to be able to prove and demonstrate that that is the case. Most airports do annual hangar inspections to achieve that. My objective is to utilize data and compliance from the tenants to achieve that without having to do hangar inspections. Hopefully, the hangar tenants will see our efforts and that we're trying to make this happen in a way that is in their best interest. And hopefully, the ones that are choosing to not be compliant will see that effort and work with us to help us achieve this compliance. Unfortunately, we have had to cancel the planned aviation festival and open house. This was a very difficult decision that we had to make. We're being faced with a really difficult situation right now, and that is we lost our parking available for the event on the south side of the airport. So we made the decision to move it to the north side of the airport. Planning was moving forward to have the event and to execute it along Taxiway Charlie. I had a review of our plans and I was asking for support from the Carson City volunteer organization, CERT, which is a volunteer unit of the fire department. I was asking for their assistance in maintaining the perimeter of this event. And I was really trying to make this happen. I was really trying to look at every way to make it happen. And in doing so, I overlooked some security vulnerabilities that existed at that location. CERT brought that to my attention. So thankfully they did, because it was valid concerns that needed to be addressed. And unfortunately, it's not possible to do that at that location. So the decision was made to cancel the event for this year. We are considering an alternative location on the north side of the airport for next year. However, there would be no possible way to make that happen this year. And there's also no guarantee that that will be a viable solution. So we are being potentially faced with not having a viable location to do the event, which would be very unfortunate. However, the safety of the public and the airport need to come first when it comes to this event. And this event, as great as it is, we can't sacrifice the safety and security of the general public and the airport. I'm not saying it's canceled. There is another option that we're going to weigh the viability of, and we'll do the best we can to make that work. I just can't guarantee that it will. Fuel flowage numbers are not updated. I did receive the information I needed from the FBO that was behind on that. So we'll have current numbers for next month. I just didn't receive that in time for this report. Aircraft operations are consistent. They're down year over year. And even though I don't have the numbers here today, we did show an increase in fuel sales. That's the trend we've been seeing. So we're showing that corporate and charter activity from jet and turboprop aircraft is up while overall operations are down. Airport operations and maintenance have been up to a lot these past 2 months, so I asked them to include their own report, which is at the end of the manager's report. They have been very busy in getting the SRE building ready to be occupied. Some of the challenges we ran into at the end of this project, they actually just ended up taking care of themselves. We're very lucky to have airport operations and maintenance staff. They're as capable as they are. They're able to knock out some of these punch list items that needed to be completed to get that occupancy. They're also doing a lot of work just making sure they're as efficient as possible in making that building usable. For example, they're making 2 custom workbenches rather than purchasing these. They were able to buy the lumber for this project by purchasing flawed lumber, and they were able to get these 2 workbenches built for about $125. these would have probably been well over $1,000 each for something to equivalent of what they did for that. So they deserve recognition for that, even though the general public isn't going to see the work that they've done. Some other highlights here, vegetation control and airfield improvements. So they have made use of some materials that we've acquired to improve some areas around the SRE building, which was fairly significant amount of work. Since we're able to get those materials from Centerlight right there on airport property, and we now own and have the qualifications to operate a dump truck, which is our snowplow, we're able to move those materials ourselves. Well, I say we, that's Rick and Morgan who are able to do that. So they made some improvements for parking along the SRE building for our equipment that's not in the building. There have been multiple aircraft incidents these past couple of months, really airfield incidents, I should say. One of them was a small fire. During mowing operations, a fire was ignited near taxiway Delta 2 and Delta intersection. Due to their quick thinking and quick action, they were able to put that out without having to close any pavement or having to call the fire department. They were prepared to do that if it was felt necessary, but they had the necessary equipment to take care of that right away. Then there was a gear up landing, and there was a sign that was taken out by an aircraft. The gear up landing was a very fast response. It was an interesting case. Sometimes when things happen on a weekend, it can take airport staff a little while to respond. We just happened to all be ready and available. I was sitting in my truck about to drive to the airport anyway when I got that phone call. So very good timing for that for airport staff. But overall, the response was really well. It went really well. I was really happy with the airport staff's response, as well as the mechanic company on the field, Stu Zero, who responded to it. Everyone did a great job, and we maintained a safe airport. This was a very interesting response because there were 3 separate aircraft incidents during the response. I'm not going to go into details about what those were at this time, but I think it's important to remind everyone the dangers that exist while we're handling these responses. Airport staff and Stu Zero did a fantastic job of managing all of this, and there was ultimately no additional risk or danger to the aircraft or the people responding because everyone was doing a good job. There was a sign that was wiped out on the airfield. It was related to an accident that did not get brought to the airport staff's attention at the time. More than likely, the aircraft was able to get clear of the runway without causing additional hazard to any other aircraft. The operator of that aircraft did come forward and let us know who it was, and we had a discussion about the incident that happened. This is another example of airport staff doing a great job of maintaining the airport. They were able to recover this sign with no additional cost. The only damage that wasn't repairable by airport staff was the frangible couplings, which are designed to break away in the event this type of accident happens. And we had spare parts available from other signs because our airport operations and maintenance staff planned ahead for this type of thing. So the sign is still usable and was reinstalled. We just heard Steve talk about being in court for trespassing incidents. Airport operations staff have been directly involved with these trespassing incidences, and every time they have made improvements to make it more difficult for these people to access the airport. They've been making improvements to gates, improvements to signage, and making sure that access codes are changed as needed. And we actually have demonstration of proof that their improvements worked based off of security camera footage, making it more difficult to access the airport. Legacy Air Base veteran flights. So Legacy Air Base and Dream Flights did perform an event at the airport on Saturday, June 28th. Staff was on site to assist with terminal access and ramp safety during the event. This was voluntary by Rick, and the veteran flights were conducted for 10 veterans in a North American T-6 Texan. And that is all that I have.
Thanks, Corey. Any questions or comments? Public? No?
Mr.
Yes, yes. Okay, please come up, state your name.
Kirk Allen, neighbor of the airport. Concerning the airport manager's direct statement on hangar inspections annually, I concur with the airport manager's assessment that it probably is an impact on his employees and his available work hours during the course of a year to inspect. How many approximate hangars?
We have over 200 hangars.
Over 200. That's probably quite a heavy lift for his staff and or himself to do over the course of an annual basis. However, caveated with the fact that periodic inspections to be conducted quarterly would be more appropriate with some type of a ratio, say 1 in 10 on a quarterly basis. Second, that the previously identified offenders from such records as are maintained by the airport manager, previously identified offenders would be re-inspected on some type of periodicity that would be appropriate towards their hangar offense. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yes, come on up if you'd like to speak.
Hi, this is Fred Austin, and this is about the Fisher and the CAF and the Dream Flight thing. In order to get the taxes straightened out, we have a document that I don't know if your attorneys looked at it. I don't know. I think Corey put some thing in it. It just says that it's being changed, but there's a place for the chairman to sign it and a place for Corey to sign it. And I don't know if you want to sign it now or run it through the attorney or what, but I'd like to get it. I just.
Sure, why don't you hand it over to our legal counsel and we'll go ahead and we'll get to that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, let's move on then to legal counsel report.
Steve Takis, legal counsel. I just had a couple of things. I just wanted to go back to the hangar use forms. You know, and this idea of hangar inspections. You know, most people see that as kind of an intrusion, but our leases do give us the right to inspect the hangars. Generally speaking, we don't really have the manpower to do that. We really don't want it. We want to dedicate our manpower to making the operations of the airport run smoothly for safety and things like that. So we don't really have the manpower to do it. And we are not proposing on behalf of staff that we start doing that. But if people don't respond to our plan for collection of data to show the FAA, yes, in fact, this is an airport. We have aircraft, airworthy aircraft in our hangars. And where somebody's building an aircraft, they really are building it. They aren't just telling us they're building it. If we can't do that, the FAA will come back in as they did about 15 years ago, and they will require us to do hangar inspections. And we did that 15 years ago. And it was a ton of work. We broke it up among not only the staff members, but also board members, because there's a lot to do and there's a lot of coordination involved in doing that. Not something we want to do, but I guess I'm here to say that if hangar users push back on filling out these forms, which should take them all of about 5 minutes at most, that's what's coming down the road. And that's going to be outside of our control. That will be a directive from the FAA, or the FAA will send their own person out like they did 15 years ago. And then had us, as a compliance, do a complete inspection. And so I just wanted to add that's hanging out there. Now, thankfully, we've been working hard on this, and between Corey and Kim and myself and others, we've been pretty successful in getting the forms in. I still have a couple of stragglers I'm working with, but I've provided them the forms. They promised they're going to get them to me. I'm going to follow up on them. But I think we're in pretty good shape. And this is a bigger issue on the airport than it really is to the neighbors of the airport, because it's an issue about, we're an airport, there's supposed to be airplanes in the hangars, not people storing lots of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with aviation. Now, the FAA rules are clear. As long as you've got an airworthy airplane in there, you can store your other stuff in there, but the primary use has to be that use of as an aircraft. And so if the aircraft is buried behind old furniture, that ain't being primarily used for aircraft, that's being used for storage. But if the aircraft is flyable and can easily get in and out. And so when you drive around the airport, you see the hangar doors open, you will generally see an airplane in the front, or you'll see the parts, hanging together where they're actually doing the construction. And so we're working on that problem. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Dad, Steve, I was around at that time, and I remember that. And one of the other issues that we have on the airport is aircraft in hangars that do not reside on the tax roll in Carson City.
We're doing better in that department too. And so, because, it's very possible that somebody has a hangar here and they also have a hangar in Oregon or Southern California or something. And so the airplane spends time in both hangars. This is not uncommon.
The key is where the insurance policy says that the airplane resides.
Right.
Every aircraft insurer wants to know two things: where does the aircraft reside, and is it hangared or not?
Yeah. And we're able to get a lot of that information from the FAA. So, yeah, that is another issue that we need to watch carefully. Good point. The other thing I was going to mention is that our serial trespasser, at the latest hearing, the judge referred him to mental health court. We actually have a specialized court for that, and they rejected him. And now he had been through that before, after he had gone for the joyride in our snowplow, and he had gone through a program, and we thought it, and so did the court, thought it was successful. But then we found out he was sneaking back onto the airport, and thankfully Corey and the staff have video evidence, so it's like not his word against our word. We've got him. And so I don't know where that's going to go, but like I said, he's still sitting in jail, and I've got a hearing, I think on the 24th of this month, where the judge is going to decide what to do with him. Now, one of the things we've asked the DA's office to include as a requirement is he is forever barred from the airport. And that way, if we've got a court order saying he's barred from the airport and we catch him on it, all we need to do is call the sheriff's office. They pick him up, they throw him in jail. He's in violation of a court order, and we've got a solution, at least a fairly quick solution. Sadly, it doesn't look like he has a good support organization at home. Of course, he's like 44 years old, so he's not really at home, although he still, I think, lives with his mother. But it doesn't look like it's a very strong support organization. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I just wanted to keep you apprised of that. And then the only other thing I had on my list is we continue to deal with litigation regarding the two aircraft that collided on the airport, and both think that it's our fault that they collided, and we don't believe that. We've turned it over to our insurance carrier. Our insurance carrier doesn't buy that, and so we're still monitoring that and actively involved in that, helping them. Anyway, and I can give you a more detailed, although that's because it involves litigation, that would be on a confidential basis, it's exempt from the public meeting law. Anyway, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comment for our legal counsel? Public? Board? No? Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay, in your board pack, you'll find the profit and loss, the balance sheet, and the budget versus actuals. Everything looks to be in order. We are now preparing for our annual audit, which is a fair amount of work, but those are the motions that we're going through at the moment.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments for our treasurer? None? Okay. I'm going to now open it up for any report from our authority members. I think Mr. Norvell has something.
This has come up before, but with all the fires in the area and the potential for power outages, I don't know the last time that we discussed a generator for the airport. Has this been on your radar before, Corey?
We have discussed generators, and ultimately the cost doesn't outweigh the benefits. But we can always revisit that topic.
Probably be $100,000 or more.
It's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have placed it on our ACIP that we give to the FAA. We always put it out a few years,
Yeah.
and then, they basically influence us to keep putting it out further years. So,
Remember, we have done that in past years.
yeah, and I don't think that they're really seeing that as something that they will fund.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Public? Nope. Okay. I don't think we have any other agenda items for the next.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
I would just suggest that the airport manager and our chairman write an agenda to appoint a driving rules committee for our next meeting.
I thought you already did that.
No, and I didn't formally ask them.
Now Mr. Norvell is very good at Robert's Rules of Order. You haven't noticed. I'm learning all the
I'm
time.
doing that under item number N, agenda items for
That's
next
right.
regular meeting.
There you go. All right. And Corey, will put that on the agenda. We'll have that. Okay, very good. At that point, I call this meeting adjourned.